everybody, it's Robbie from Southern California, and today I'm going to take you on a harvest. A really big, super big harvest, but a little different. Not an average harvest that you may see on other channels and other places, but a harvest on food that we don't pick, and why we don't pick the food that should be pretty close to harvest. So here I am in my front yard that we just redesigned and I'm working on. And we have a lot of different food growing. Red vein sorrel, we've got purple tree colored, we've got all kinds of stuff. I could go through and just harvest everything and then what? Freeze it? Can it? Dry it? Gary and I prefer, when possible, fresh. And living in Southern California, we can do a lot of different types of vegetables fresh all year round. So we may eat differently at different times of the year. There is nothing wrong with canning. There is nothing wrong with drying. There is nothing wrong with freezing. I do that. I do dry, I do freeze, and I've done canning years ago, done with that. I don't personally want to do it. It's a lot of work. And I feel that we don't need to do it, so we don't do it. But canning is fabulous, but we don't harvest. I know a lot of times I go online, I love watching people harvest. They bring their baskets out and they fill them up and they bring everything in, and I've done it, and then what? For instance, let's walk over to the squash. I've got some zucchini growing here, and they're massive. And let me explain what and why we do certain things. And this, by the way, is goldfinch damage. Look at the size of that zucchini. I would say 6 to 8 pounds. That thing weighs a ton. I do have to get it in. Absolutely. It should be brought in. It should have been brought in when it was 6, 8 inches long. But we have so much that I harvest as I need it. Now, right now, the skin is still soft on this zucchini. It'd be very easy for me to remove the zucchini, slice it up, and fry it, bake it, grate it, do whatever I want with it, whether I'm making dinner or dessert. But because I don't need it right now, I am going to leave it. But there's another one in here that I am going to pick. And let me reach in there and twist it and get it off, and I'll explain to you why. Okay, this one. Well, this one is damaged. This is not insect damage, but if I leave it, it will be. I've got tulle around here, but I did not close it off. And what I've got here that lives in this yard is a great big rabbit who obviously found this and did some nibbling on it. You know what? He's a healthy rabbit. All I have to do is cut all that off and peel it, and I can use it. I am going to use this one. I think I'm going to make a green mousse out of it, a lime mousse. Gary'd get a kick out of that. I think I'll do that today. So I'm going to bring this one in, clean it up, and do something with it. Normally, I would have left it, and I will need to get the big one off soon. But this is why I do. Let me just leave this here right now on my fountain before the sun comes up. Normally, I pick them as I need them. I come out here, I go in through the different gardens, and I pick what I'm going to use that day. Celery. I've got small celery. Why is this celery so small and not big? Because there's like 100 of them in there. But I use that celery. I prefer the leaves, so I harvest as I need it. Whether it's a green drink, whether I'm making potato salad, whether I'm making something I'm going to add celery in, I harvest when I need it. Same thing with greens. When I'm making a green drink, I harvest as I need it. Walking onions. Walking onions are a green onion. The reason they're called walking onions is they walk, see? And as they grow, they're supposed to theoretically fall to the ground where it's nice and damp, and it will grow new onions. But walking onions, you harvest as you need them. Always harvest walking onions as you need them. Just cut off the greens and you use it just like you would any other green onion. Any other green onion. Here's some white onions I grew. Just plain old white onions. Now this one has gone to seed, and hopefully I will remember to cover it with tulle, Tulle, so I can get some seeds. I have found that if I remove these onions and bring them in the house, I'm going to have to either refrigerate them or keep them in a really dry place that I don't have a cool, dry place right now. So I can leave them out here and pick, see, I picked some yesterday as I need them, and they stay great in the garden in this area. I keep it just lightly damp, the soil, and the onions store right in my garden, and as I need an onion, I come get it. If the weather would turn on me, yes, I would pick it. But that is why I don't harvest my onions. It works for me. If I pick them and put them in a basket in the house, they will mold and rot. These have been out here for months, and I just, even though they're done, they're not really growing, except for that one. I pick them and pull them out as I need them. So here, there's nothing else here I need, and nothing else that I'll use for today unless I come back and grab some chocolate mint and make some mint tea. When I need it, I will get it. Let's take a walk and go in a different part of the yard, and let's go through the different foods on why I harvest and when I'm going to harvest. Now this is my ginger and turmeric table. And of course there's stevia in the back too. And stevia, you know, you use that for sugar because it's sweet. I put that in my tea. I only harvest it when I need it. And that's picking off as many leaves as I want and then making it in whatever fashion I'm going to make my tea in or whatever I want to put it in. As far as turmeric and ginger, I could pull this ginger out, cut off pieces that I want, and then put it back in the ground. I can harvest it anytime instead of doing a full harvest. Though I do a full harvest at the end of the season when everything dies back, I do go through it. I freeze some of it, I replant some of it, and we eat some of it fresh because it can store on the counter for a good month or so. So that is when we do a full harvest on ginger. Otherwise, we harvest ginger and turmeric, they're both the same, as we need it. Tomatoes. We grow red tomatoes, orange tomatoes, all kinds of tomatoes. It is the same, and black tomatoes. It is the same thing on the tomatoes. We harvest our tomatoes as we need it. But when the weather starts to change, I will gather up a bunch of tomatoes and I will cut them up, wash them, cut them up, and freeze a bunch of them in individual small baggies. So when I want to make a sauce, a stew, a soup, whatever, enchiladas, whatever I want to make, I have a bag of frozen tomatoes that I can use when we need it. But as long as we have an overabundance of tomatoes and we can just walk through the garden and snack, then that's what we do. And we pull them as we need them, whether, you know, we're eating them for dinner, either in tacos or something I'm making, let's say an enchilada or lasagna or something, eggs, or whatever I want. I will come out here when I'm going to make it, either in the morning or whenever I want to come. I come through and I pick. On the black tomatoes, they're beautiful purple black, but they're not ripe. When you see them start to turn this rusty color, and you can do a gentle squeeze and they're soft, those are ripe, and I'll pick those and use them as we need it. As we walk around, you're going to see there is a lot of zucchini around. The problem is I can't use them quick enough. I could pick nice small ones, which is the perfect way to use them, but we don't go through them quick enough. So I let them get a little size, and when I think, hey, today I want to make some zucchini bread, or I want to make a mousse out of them, a dessert, or we want to slice it up and just fry it with some butter on the oven, on the cooktop, you know, or bake in the oven, then I've got it and I will come out and get it, because as long as it's on the plant, the skin doesn't get that rock hardness to it, and I can still peel it if I want or use the skin. So yes, we have a lot of zucchini left, but once the leaves all die away and the plant is going, it will be then time to pull it off and store it in the house so we can use it over the winter months. Most of our tomatoes that we grow on our property are small ones. We prefer small ones because you get rewarded quicker. We've been waiting for a while to get that tomato. The cherry tomatoes, the smaller varieties, they ripen so much quicker, but all of them are good. When a big one is ripe, you better get it off before the squirrels get it. So that one's getting close for us to get. But we will harvest that tomato when it's ready, because we don't want to lose the big one because you have to wait so long. As far as peppers, we harvest as we need it. These are golden, California golden peppers. And as soon as it turns gold, we will harvest it. They're at different stages, so that will work out perfect for us for all the different peppers on the property, and we'll go through them and we will take off them as we need it. Celery is all over. You've seen it in the front yard, and we've got it here, and we've got some lettuce growing through here. And I do harvest the lettuce as I need it, but if I leave it too long in the warm weather, we'll lose it because it will go to seed. But you know what? It's not a loss, because at that point, I do save the seeds. I do sprinkle them somewhere and grow more. Cucumbers. Now, cucumbers are a little different. We have cucumbers growing all over, and this plant we thought was done and is making a big comeback. See all the new leaves? So with cucumbers, as soon as we see them, the size we want, and we prefer our cucumbers small, I will harvest them right away. We don't want them to get too big unless we want to collect the seeds, because they'll get big seeds and harder to eat and don't taste as good. So with cucumbers, you definitely want to get them small. And I make pickles out of them, or just simply use them for salad, or make a cucumber salad with onions. That is fabulous. But cucumbers we'll pick when they get to about that big. I definitely will get them off. And so that we don't just leave on the plant. We harvest it as soon as it's ready. Malabar spinach, which is now leaving the property. No, it's not leaving. The Malabar spinach is another thing you definitely harvest as you need. It's got a thick leaf to it, and really the best thing to do with Malabar spinach for me is, yes, people fry it up and do all kinds of stuff, is I add it to a salad. And that adds extra nutrients to your salad, and the vine just grows beautiful. I will say I happen to absolutely love the berries. It grows these beautiful red berries, and you can dye all kinds of things. I've made frosting out of them, and they are beautiful. So I do like my Malabar spinach for different reasons. You harvest that as you need it. And we all know that watermelon is another one you harvest when it's ready. That is not ready. We will watch for the little curly Q later to get brown, which is back there. And when it gets brown, you can harvest it anytime after it gets brown. Last year, we waited a couple weeks, and our watermelon was as sweet as sugar. But that you harvest when it's ready. If you leave it too long, you will have critters come find it because they know, or your wasp or your bees, because they love watermelon too. So you harvest that when it's ready. My potatoes are ready. The whole plant is completely dyed back, and I know there's potatoes in there. So look at that. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's get that well covered, because if I don't cover them, my potatoes will turn green. So I need to get that harvested by today or tomorrow, because once the potatoes turn green, you cannot eat it, but you can use the green ones to replant more potatoes. So that is when you harvest potatoes. When your potatoes, the plant itself, the beautiful green plant, dies back, you then know it is ready to harvest, because they're not going to be growing anymore. They have stored everything into the potatoes, and those potatoes are ready. So yes, harvest your potatoes, and if you don't, you won't lose them. What will happen is they'll start to grow when it's time to grow again, which could be at any time. So I'm going to get that harvested. I'm going to use the potatoes I want, and I'm going to use the other ones, a few of them, if they turn green, or maybe whatever ones I pick to regrow, because I'm sure I've got a bunch of little potatoes in there. Here are our black Cobra peppers. Gary loves them. He adds them to his rice every morning. He likes eating rice with vegetables from the garden. And he said he comes out here, he told me, and he picks 1 or 2 a day, and he uses them. We harvest them when we need them. We don't harvest a whole bag of them, a whole bowl of them. We take them off when we need them, and we leave them on the plant. So he's been harvesting his black Cobra peppers, and they are hot, when he wants them. I actually haven't tried them yet. Another zucchini. That one is so beautiful. I have a funny feeling I'm going to be harvesting that one today, because it's just so shiny and pretty, and that's going to be beautiful to cut up. Skin and all will be soft. It's big. Look how big it is. But I can tell just by looking at it, this thing is so full of water that this thing is ready to come off and ready to be sliced up and fried in a frying pan with butter today. Now with Moringa, if I wanted to make a powder out of it, the green leaves, which is very healthy, and dry them, I could go through and do a great big harvest and harvest a bunch of those leaves off. We happen to use them green, and we cut them up with whatever greens we're doing. If we're making not too much a salad, but I put it in a green drink and add it to different things, even to my rice sometimes. If I'm picking a bunch of greens, and I have a method of the way I do my rice with greens, I might grab some of that too. But that you would harvest as you need it, unless you're going to dry it. And then you can harvest a ton of leaves and then just wash them, put them in a dryer or air dry them really good, and then spin them in a coffee grinder and turn them into powder. Now we're at the truck bed, and I hope you can see this, but let me see if I can move some of this. It is loaded through and through, all the way back. There's another one. Let me see. There's another great big one. It looks like a watermelon. This is zucchini hybrid, and this is a delicata hybrid. And I guess that is a curly Q, so I can pick this. Hopefully it's going to be sweet like delicata. Again, I've been leaving them and harvesting them as we need them. The delicata hybrid, being that it has a curly Q on it, I would say that could be stored. Zucchini doesn't have that little curly Q to tell you when it's time to pick it. So basically, it's not a storing squash. People don't store their zucchini. Even their hybrid zucchini doesn't store. But let me tell you something. When you let them get big, we have stored them and we use them when we want. So you can store them when they get large, as long as they're not damaged, and then bake them up and use them in the winter and make different things out of them. You can also freeze them. Remember, I told you I have frozen. There's a yellow squash, which is not a storing squash. So that you want to pick as small as possible. There it is. Probably will get that off in the next few days, slice it up and make it whatever way I want. Again, this is why we don't have a full harvest. We pick as we need. Oh, the tomatillos. And that you have to wait till they're ripe. You'll feel them. They'll be hollow right now. See, there's nothing in there. And these cute little bubbles. Oh my gosh, they're so cute. They're like a gift in a package. The tomatillo will grow inside, fill it in, and when you'll squeeze it, you'll feel it's hard. And sometimes they start to pop. And a lot of ours are green, and a lot of them are purple, so you never know what you're going to get inside. You have an idea. My chair garden is really only a little over a month old. I did have a great big zucchini out of here that I've already picked, and there's already more in the back there. And then here we've got the tomato plants just growing, and of course we've even got watermelon growing. So we'll harvest the watermelon when they're ready. And as far as squash, being in a container, well, they're all in containers, even on the walls back there. I'll pick them as I need them. And with the tomatoes, we'll pick those when they're ripe. And we've got a lot of tomatoes now growing here. And again, we'll pick them as we need them. But once they start to go too ripe, then you want to get them off because something else will get them. I do have other things growing here like garlic chives. And we pick that as we need it. This is garlic chives. You eat the green leaves and they're beautiful. Even just picking them and chewing them while I walk through the garden. They're so good and they taste like garlic. And that you pick as you need them. You leave them and let them just bush up. So that's what's going on in here in my chair garden. Now here in the box, you've seen me put that together in the video. Everything here is just starting to grow, but I've got sage now that has taken off. I can use the sage as I need it. Come out here and pick some leaves. The same thing with the basil. I pick it as I need it. If the flowers start to come, I pinch off the flowers in hopes we can get the plant to last a little longer. Once it really flowers and takes off, then it pretty much starts to die back. But right now, this is a new plant, and this is ready to pick the leaves as I need them out of my cardboard box, wrapped in a party tablecloth. Now I'm here with all the papayas. That is pomegranate back there, that big bush behind the papaya, and we will pick them as they ripen. Right now, they're just flowers and small ones. But with the papaya, we pick them as soon as they're ripe, and I see we've got a few that are getting very, very close. Now, he tries not to leave them or forget about them because we've got a small problem. The ravens have found it. So I'm going to say that Gary will probably be coming and picking this one off fairly soon. So he does pick the papayas as soon as they turn bright orange. He will pick them and get them off the tree. We have it wrapped so the squirrels won't go up and get them, or the rats. But right now I have seen the ravens in here. And so we've got to get them off as soon as they turn orange, because the ravens know when those things are ready and they want them, and they'll just come in here and demolish them. And I haven't covered them. I could cover them with tulle, and that would keep the ravens off. I've covered just the bottom part with tulle to keep off the critters that might crawl up the trunk. Now we have a lot of citrus trees on the property as well. We actually pick those as we need them, unless the fruit starts to drop for some reason, or the tree is too heavy, because when you pick them and bring them in, you can only leave them on the kitchen counter, citrus, for let's say a week or so, or it could start to mold. I have found, which is very odd, under my lemon tree, that when they fall to the ground under the lemon tree, they'll sit there for a week or two, bring them in, they're beautiful, and when I put them on the kitchen counter, within 2 or 3 days, they start to mold. So there's something about bringing in some citrus that will start to mold in the house. This is not in the fridge. This is on just the kitchen counter. Where leaving them outside with nature, they don't seem to mold as quickly. But we do pick as we need, unless we feel at some point the tree is struggling. Then at that point, we'll pick them, and Gary froze a ton of different types of orange citrus this year. So we pick them as we need them, unless we have to get them off. Tree collard, kale, all of them. Dazzling blue kale, which is here. I do pick all our greens as we need them. They are absolutely gorgeous, and I want to have the freshest greens when I come out, when I want to make something. So I come out here and pick the most beautiful greens to use on whatever dish I want to make, whether it's a dinner dish, a salad, or a green drink. We pick them as we need them, and the rest, if they turn yellow, that goes back to the soil and makes more soil for all our plants. So again, with the greens, we pick when we need them. But if you decided you wanted to dry them, there would be nothing wrong with taking the leaves off, washing the leaves, and drying them in whatever way you want to dry them, and then you can make a powder. You can also blanch them and freeze them if you want. Lemon balm. Isn't that gorgeous? And it smells so good. Definitely, we pick it when we need it, and it's gorgeous, and it just grows like a bush. These things were too small, and I changed it into a pot, so it's in a pot on the top, off the ground. Just walk by and grab whatever you want, and we pick it when we need it. Now this is a Kabocha squash, and the little curlicue must have come off because I don't see it on there. See, there should have been one. There's one here, but I think this one is getting close, and because that is a storing squash, you wait till that one's ripe. If the curlicue was there and it was brown, which it probably would be by now, then you would harvest that, and that you can set aside in a nice, cool, dark place, and you have that particular squash for all winter or whenever you want to eat it, because that is a storing squash. So that you would harvest as soon as it's ready. So I've taken you through my gardens. It's basically the same with Gary's. He picks them and brings them in as we need it. We don't do any canning, but we do occasionally freeze food. If something is, we think we want to have that for the winter. But as far as everything else, we basically pick as we need. The tomatoes, like these are all ripe. If we don't get them, something else will. If I decided I wanted to freeze some, I would come through here, grab a great big bowl of it and freeze it. I might do it pretty soon. But as far as everything, like you see lemon verbena back here and dinosaur kale, we pick it as we need it. And that's the way we do a lot of our food. Now, of course, we've got lots of spaghetti squash, and you all know how spaghetti squash is. There is a ton of it through here, all over the place. It's just grown everywhere. That we will be picking soon and finding a nice place to store it, because that you do need to store. So that we will be picking very soon, and we will store that and have spaghetti squash for the winter. That's another kabocha, which has to come off, and more tomatoes that are not quite ripe yet. They'll turn a little bit of a rust color, and then we'll know they're ripe. And oregano in the back, and all our herbs, of course. We pick our herbs as we need them, but there would be nothing wrong with picking them. Oh, let's go take that in. Picking them and freezing some or drying some as far as your herbs. Broccoli, well, they're just starting right now, but I'm going to give this to my Yorkie kitty because she waits for me to come in to see if I've got any broccoli. Isn't this purple tree color beautiful? There's nothing better than fresh greens from the garden. So I hope I've given you some thought on why we don't do a big fancy harvest. You may see us occasionally do a harvest in the winter as winter's approaching because things are getting cold and we want to have some stuff that we have stored. But as far as canning, we personally don't can. There's nothing wrong with it. But we do store squash, and I do freeze occasionally zucchini to have for the winter if I want to make some cake or something, or some greens to have if I feel that we're not going to have greens. But so far we've had plenty of greens that the birds don't eat. And we've had plenty, so we don't store greens in the freezer. And I have made powder, dried it, and made powder, and that works out good too. So with that, I hope I've given you an idea on how we do our gardening. And yes, we share a lot with the birds. Have a great day, and don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye, everybody. Oh my goodness, that is not a goldfinch. And I've got to zoom in on that. I don't know what it is. That's a goldfinch. But the other one next to it is not a goldfinch. That is not a goldfinch. I think what's amazing is I'm 3 feet from these birds. That's not a goldfinch. I don't know what it is. He's comfortable enough for me to stand right in front of him with the camera, and off he goes. Wow. I brought you. I ate the leaves. Oh, that's my squash. Sorry, it fell out of my pocket. Here, you take that, and I take my squash back.